Hello and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. This is just a little message before the show gets started that today's show is definitely an adult show. In other words, the language in it is not really foul, but it is adult language. And also that the contents, thoughts and expressions, and the opinions that are offered are definitely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of K-Wave 6 Radio. The show is about current events, and we hope that you enjoy it. And without further ado, here we go.
K-Wave 6 Radio and our host Kirk Spencer welcome you to our show, bringing positive messages to today's world. And now, here's Kirk.
Hi, and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. Today, we're having a little bit of a different style program. It's not just an interview. This is a discussion. I'm talking with two very dear friends of mine. I more or less adopted them as my family. And their experiences are very wide, and their knowledges are very wide. You may have heard them on previous shows, and I'm going to introduce them, only their first names. And it's just going to be a talk about what's going on in the world today. And we have some concerns here. Part of my discussion here is, as I started off just talking about this off air, was in the last couple of days I've been having this very weird feeling like something ominous is in the background, something about to happen. And with that, my friend Robert came up and said that he has a pretty good handle on that. He is one person that's in this discussion, and the other one is Kimberly. So welcome to the show. And by the way, before we get started in this one, I just want to say this is not going to be a G-rated show. It more or less will be an R-rated show. So in other words, if you have little children that are sensitive with their ears and you don't want your children to hear certain words, this might not be the show for them. But anyway, we're not going to get downright dirty, but it's just going to let you know it's adult content. So anyway, welcome to the show, Robert and Kim.
Thank you, and sorry about the dog pound in the background. I guess they think they're Arsenio Hall show or something.
Tell them if they can sing, we'll give them the mic. Hello there, Robert. You still there?
In the words of Froggy the Magic Gremlin, hiya, 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 kids. We got some shit for you today.
Oh, God, he did that. Okay. Well, when we were off air, I was just talking about a topic we could start with, and Robert, you said that you had a pretty good idea what was going on. You want to continue from there, or just start from there all over again?
Okay, well, bottom line is, everybody talks about the New World Order, but their biggest leverage on this world is the petrodollar. Their money situation. They've all got us in this financial tyranny. Well, guess what? The dollar bill is going down. It is dying. Everybody around the world is abandoning the dollar. Even American companies are abandoning the dollar. It is going to die. All this, people talk about, well, when it crashes, we're going to have martial law. Here's an old rule. If you can't pay the soldiers, they won't fight. Go figure.
Well, just what you were talking about before about how they're using the dollar as the reserve.
Well, this is an organization called the BRICS, which, is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and they're being joined by like 170 other countries in forming their own bank. They're trading in gold, in the Russian ruble, in the yuan. Even American companies are doing this. The dollar, which has no value anyway, it's not even a dollar is not even worth the paper it's printed on. I mean, the value of the dollar is less than the cost of that piece of paper. And when the dollar goes through the floor, This is going to create a global crisis because everybody deals in the dollar. What do we do when our dollar's no good anymore? What's going to happen when there's no money there to pay truck drivers to bring groceries to the grocery stores? What's going to happen when there's no money to pay the people who run the electrical grid or the water supply or there's just going to be, well, it's going to be sort of like, in my opinion, in a lot of the big cities like Katrina. When all of the services were curtailed, there was chaos, there was rioting, there was looting. There people go nuts when they think there's no food or water. And can you blame them, really? You know, I've been telling people recently, if you have money in banks, get it out. Get it out and buy something tangible with it, something you can use for barter or trade or just plain survival. I mean, I've been making a point with my lady to buy something really, some useful survival tool every payday, you know, to make sure we have food, water, survival tools, an escape route, get the hell out of Dodge when it goes nuts.
It's not bad, yeah.
Hey, you know, we used to be a country of self-sustaining individuals. Everybody had their own garden. Everybody had a root cellar. Everybody watched out for their neighbors. Communities got together and raised barns for each other, and they knew they could count on the guy next door to help. Can you do that now in your society? Do you even know the guy next door? You know, this is what's happened. They've made us a totally dependent society. But we're going to have to real soon return to the idea of rule number one to start with, cover your own ass, and then go from there. You know, rule number 1A is accept when it's absolutely you or them, you cover your buddy's butt too, you know. But we don't even think that way in America anymore. We're just individual little bees trying to survive and feed our families, and most of us are being thwarted in that effort.
Let me ask a question here real quick, because I've heard this, and this is going to be kind of a devil's advocate kind of a question. Over the past few years, I'll say few instead of several, but over the past few years, we've all been hearing and reading about the eventual collapse of the U.S. dollar. What makes you believe, or think, whichever you prefer to say, there's something that is going to be happening soon?
Well, as I said, the BRICS, the biggest nations in the world that aren't the United States, are turning away from it. The only reason the dollar had its heyday was because everybody accepted it. Everybody said, yeah, we'll take your dollars. Sure. And they did whatever they could to prop up it used to be the British pound sterling. Well, see what happened with that? It went way of the great white whale into extinction as far as reserve currency. We're right at the edge where the dollar cannot be sustained. The way they're printing them, every time they print a new dollar bill, the value of all of the rest of them go down a little bit. And they have printed billions. That's my right there. It's reached the breaking, the straw on the camel's back. Finally, that was enough, and I think we've reached it.
In other words, another financial cycle is going to, and we're about to see it.
Yep.
Okay. Kimberly, you had something you were talking about that subject. What were you...
Bitcoins.
Yeah.
Like I said, don't really know much about them. I've heard about it for a couple of years now, and just started reading an article not too long ago about Bitcoins because it seemed like they started coming back up again. But I think Stash knows more about that than a lot more than I do. So.
The bottom line with Bitcoin is every time it starts to make advances, the federal government finds a way to shoot it down. And they have shut down Bitcoin exchanges for tax evasion and all because it doesn't involve them. It takes the wealth outside of the banking system, and you know the feds can't allow that. The international banksters can't allow that. It ruins their control on the world. Plus, it's such an unstable market, and the value of Bitcoin fluctuates so much at this point. I won't buy into it. And if I had the money to buy into it, I wouldn't buy into it, just for that reason. So,
There is something that I have been trying to get and actively working at it again. I'm trying to get a university professor, doesn't matter which university, as long as it's a credible university, to come on and talk about how humanity goes through cycles. And even in the late 1980s, I read a book where part of it was talking about the United States, or even our world, is in a cycle that is reminiscent of the old Roman Empire at its crash when it was just about to fall. If you know anything about that part of history, about how society, how the finances went, and if you look at that and look at where we are today, we are mirroring that time in our history. Do you have any comments on that, either one of you?
oh, hell yes. Rome started out as a republic, a democracy. Then it became a dictatorship under the emperors. Germany is the same way. The Weimar Republic, they turned into a democracy. They elected Hitler, and then they became a dictatorship. This is not a new story. Mm-hmm. This, as they say, you learn from history so you don't repeat your mistakes. Well, we're doing the same thing. It's happening right here. We're only to the democracy step. America is not a democracy. It is a republic. You need to know the difference between the two. In a democracy, it is mob rule. The 51% can take away the rights of the 49%. In a republic, no law is allowed unless it protects the individual rights of each and every citizen. It has to. It's under natural law, not common law, which still goes back to the Roman Curia system, but under natural law. Do no harm. Don't rip off your neighbors. Don't cheat anybody. The basic priests treat others as you would be treated, and that your rights end at the tip of my nose. My rights begin there, and mine end where yours begin. I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in America. That doesn't mean it's going to be given to me. I have the right to go get it. I have the right to create it without regulations and statutes and law, inane laws, all the bull that they throw in on top of it to try and formalize it, and when it's really that simple. A crime isn't a crime if there is no victim. Period. That's the easy way to look at everything. If you take advantage of someone, that's a crime. If you hurt someone, that's a crime. But if I sit and blow my mind out on heroin or crack or anything, and I don't do any harm to anyone else, that's my business. If I want to shoot myself, that's my right. When you try to commit suicide, it's only illegal if you don't succeed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was chuckling at.
Then they throw you in jail for trying to kill yourself. Excuse me, mind your own business.
And then they have you mentally assessed.
Well, and then they'll find out that set on killing myself, I'm going to do it whether I'm here or in jail. As soon as the opportunity provides itself. That's why I was really behind Oregon when we came up with the death with dignity law. That people have the right to say, I want to end it. Pull the plug. You know, that's my choice. Of course, they did that in Soylent Green and turned them into
Jeez. Yeah,
It's
there's.
just another case of government telling you what you can and can't do. You know, you want to end your life, government says no. And Big Pharma steps in too because they say, well, we've got some drugs that'll make you better.
Yeah, well, I've got enough people to tell you how much that makes them feel better, or I felt made them feel better. It wasn't quite that. It was being sarcastic when they said it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just posted something the other day on Facebook that says Big Pharma does not create cures. It creates lifelong customers.
Exactly.
And generally, those lives are a lot shorter by taking their medicine. You know?
Yeah, actually, I think it is. I'm not sure exactly, so don't quote me on this one, but I think the AMA even tells you that they're not in the business of curing. They only look forward to on the symptoms, if you put it that way.
Of course, that's the way our whole society works on every issue. You put a war out on drugs, it's not the drugs. It is the society that caused people to take drugs. You start a war on poverty. What do you get? You get more poverty because poverty is not the problem. Poverty is the symptom of the problem. It's our social structure that's causing poverty. Don't fight poverty by giving money to the poor. Teach the poor how to get rich.
Yeah.
You know, it's, as a matter of fact, you were saying something about the AMA. The FDA has said, and it's on our website, only a drug can cure a disease. Think about that. For 3,000 years, we've been, you know, as it's documented, we've been doing without drugs. We've been using natural cures for thousands of years, and the Native Americans say for every illness there's a plant to cure it. The Chinese food is medicine. Medicine, your food. If you eat right, but with all of the lack of nutrition and all chemicals and stuff that they're putting in our food, it isn't food anymore. I heard a line someone say, I like to eat organic food, or as my ancestors called it, food.
Exactly.
You know, what gets me is so much of the food nowadays with all the genetic modification they do to it. The junk food and candy and crap is just about new stuff that's supposed to be actual food.
Well, you know, I mean, you can go eat a Twinkie that has a shelf life of 1,000 years. Maybe you'll live 1,000 years. You know, you'll be like Keith Richards, the end of the world. Only you and a bunch of cockroaches left. You're so well preserved. You know?
Oh, yeah. It's hard to moderate conversation. Got me laughing. That hurts.
Oh, you didn't say you had to keep this serious.
No.
It is,
No.
you know, the best way to get past stubbing your toe is to swear a lot and then laugh about it. You know?
Exactly. No, because my vivid imagination went to Keith Richards coming out of his stupor one day and just going, where'd everybody go? Where'd all these cockroaches come from?
Like Robin Williams' answer to that. He says, yeah, after the Great Hall, only Keith Richards and a cockroaches left, and he'll be standing there going, ooh, cool, I smoked your uncle.
Oh, oh, good grief. Let's change the subject just a little bit, because we're still talking about just what's going on in the world today, and we've got about 13 minutes before we have to take a break anyway. Let's see. The thing that, what's really going on, and we can get into this more after the break if you want to, but I remember sharing a quotation with you from someone that I know, and I don't remember the whole thing and I can't find it here, but the end result was just talking about what's going on with all these wars that are going on right now. These radical Islamics or radical Muslims that are taking over the world, and all the video over YouTube talking about to kill everybody doesn't convert and so on and so forth. And then we're talking about the person actually made it in a mention. Sorry, something popped up on my computer. She was making a mention about how we're using, or especially the radical Muslims are using children as their PR, basically. In other words, are we really using children in this war? What are your comments and thoughts about that?
Well, that's the big, our southern border here in America, that all these refugee children, yeah, well, they're about a third of what's coming across the border.
Uh-huh.
We've got Mexican tattooed gangbangers coming across. We've got people from all over the world, and they're not watching. And now there's all this big scandal about an ISIS group down in Juarez, Mexico, operating. I know one Texas sheriff said, they show their ugly heads around here, we'll blow them straight to hell. This whole thing wouldn't be such a big issue if the United States would mind its own friggin' business.
Amen.
We are, we're empire building, and this is what's going on. This is how America makes its living, with war. Period. That's what we're good for in the big three: the Vatican City, London, and D.C. The Vatican handles crowd control, population control. City of London handles the money for the world. D.C. is war. That's what they're there for. And the American industrial military complex is what's running this country right now. And every third weapon, I should say, that's being used against Americans in the Middle East is an American-made weapon. We're selling them to both sides. Obama is giving them to both sides. Hell, we founded Al-Qaeda. They were freedom fighters to fight Russia. We trained them. We armed them. We told them, go kill my little boys. And it was such a good tool. They're not going to get rid of it. As a matter of fact, Al-Qaeda has gone through puberty, and now it's ISIS.
Well, here, just take this one, just to add on to what you're just saying. I went looking for some information on DARPA, D-A-R-P-A, which is the Defense Research Organization. I can't remember exactly what all the initials mean.
Research Projects Administration.
Yeah, you can just go in, for those who are listening, DARPA.gov. Well, you just do an internet search and find it. And when you look at their home page, you see that they got their start in 1958. And guess what president was out telling people? You've got to watch out for the industrial military complex.
Wasn't that Truman?
Nope.
No, that was Eisenhower.
Eisenhower. Okay.
Yep. He
I
made
remember-
more than one speech on that. Go ahead.
Yep. No, I remember that speech.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you've got to watch out for them. They'll go over if let them, And to me, this goes to the root of the problem right there. We have got to watch out for them. If you read the Constitution, the designated government of the United States, or for the United States, is we the people. And the federal government are our public servants, including that idiot in the White House, public servant number one. That is his job, is to serve the public. But they're not doing that. They have decided they are our leaders. I wouldn't follow Obama into a bathhouse because it would probably be a gay bathhouse. Along with cohort Michael, who's in the next bed. They want to think that they rule us. They are in control, and they are, as long as we the people stay asleep and don't question everything they do in our name. That to me is our most patriotic duty, Americans, is to question everything the government does in our name, and then hold them accountable for it. And this is the biggest thing that's missing in our society right now, is any form of action. Americans are have become complacent, um, apathetic, and basically dumbed down and brainwashed by the boob tube.
Kim, let me question you. Just what I just got through talking about is we the people, and if we the people don't speak, we have often seen these posters flying around every place where silence is oftentimes considered to be what is the word I'm looking for? Acceptance.
And the law, silence is assent.
Yeah, there you go. So, what do you think of that?
Well, I think a lot of things are rights. People don't have a clue what they are, for one, because they don't pay attention to it, don't care. They're not taught in school anymore. When I was in junior high, we had civics classes.
Yeah.
Yep.
They really didn't teach us about the Constitution and stuff, and but at least had the class. Nowadays, they don't teach kids any of that stuff. You know, when my kids were in school, sometimes they'd come home and say, "What'd you guys do today?" "Oh, we watched a movie." "What was it about?" And it'd be some silly crap, Sleepless in Seattle and stuff like that. You know, which is not really what I sent my kids to school to learn.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Sleepless in Seattle. They came home from school seeing kinds of stupid movies. You know, and it pissed me off. I asked the teacher what's going on, and you can't get answers. You can't, you know, they just do what they want. But I think that's a big part of the problem is people don't know. They're afraid of government because government makes them think that they're so big and bad that they can do whatever they want.
How many of us grew up with the saying, "You can't fight City Hall"?
True.
Bullshit. I not only can I fight City Hall, I'll take those mothers down the main street and drag them. You know, I come on. You're right about the civics classes. That and gun safety used to be taught in every American classroom. They would teach us what our rights are. Now we've gone from the American school system to the American fool system. And that's what they're trying, a bunch of American fools. And look at Common Core. I mean, they're teaching that the Boston Tea Party is a terrorist act. Our founding fathers were terrorists. Come on. I mean, really. And now they're trying to convince everybody. You know, I mean, maybe in the original concept, weren't included in the people. You know, that was for the rich landowners and whatever. But in 21st century American, we the people is all of the people. Whether they like it or not and then want to interpret it differently or not, it is all of us. And imagine if 300 million of us plus turned against the 10,000 of them in the government, you know, that are ruling this, or 10,000 that are ruling the world, basically. I kind of like our odds better, especially since I heard an article today that there are something like, oh God, 300 or 400, no, there's more. There are more guns in America owned by the citizens than there are citizens.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many ones they know about. Think about that. It used to be, you know, during World War II, the Japanese emperor said, "Can't invade because there's a gun behind every tree." Well, now there's a gun behind every blade of grass, and there's somebody that owns it that knows how to use it too.
Yeah.
Plus, America now, for how many decades since Vietnam, has been training soldiers in you know, guerrilla warfare, advanced tactical maneuvers, and whatever, and then spitting them out and saying, "They made a contract to take care of people after they got out." Do you know how many of those guys are pissed and are joining militias?
Quite a few.
Oh, it's growing by immense amounts daily. People are getting tired. People who are getting thrown out of their homes for no reason at all. They're ready to stand up and fight.
Well, they have nothing else to lose.
right? People whose jobs are being, sent overseas. They're fighting mad. They're looking for direction. I've tried to direct a few people in constructive ways that they can make a difference. National Alliance, taking back the courts, the New Earth Nation. You talked to Troy the other day about that. I think.
Yes.
Getting back to natural, but just going and pounding on your congressman's desk or barraging them with letters, saying, you want to stay in that office, you better straighten up your act.
Yeah.
But unless we say something, do something, nothing is going to change.
Yeah. With that, we're going to take our first and only break. So we'll be right back with a.k.a. Robert and with Kimberly. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Do you get writer's block or tongue-tied when you try to write or talk? Or you sound like me and would rather have somebody else with a beautiful voice do a presentation for you? Let K-Wave 6 Productions help you with all your audio-visual, editing, and language translation needs for your business or hobby. Does the thought of creating a website give you the chills? Well, we got that handled too. We have webmasters that can help you with all your website needs. Remember K-Wave 6 Productions at www.kwave6productions.tk, or you can email us at info@kwave6productions.tk.
Hi there. This is Chad C. Meek, writer and executive producer of the epic UFO thriller Giant Rock the Movie. Even if you haven't been abducted by E.T., you need to listen to the K-Wave 6 radio network to get the latest of the odd, the unusual, or more importantly, the fun. See you at the movies.
All right, welcome back to K-Wave 6 Radio. We had a little break there. Before we took our break, we were getting into a lot of different areas, but I have a question I want to start this segment off with, our final segment for this particular show. The difference between, what is the difference, as you see it, between rights and privileges? Kim?
Oh, Lord, you would start with me.
Oh, yes. Ladies first.
No, not this one. Damn, that's a tough one. Because you have you would say your God-given rights, like Stash was saying, liberty and pursuit of happiness and all that. You have, I think, what people money get more, doesn't matter what your rights are or anything else. If they want to step on those rights, if they have the money, then they have the privilege to do it.
Well, the one you were talking about while we were taking our break about the federal judge. Rights and privileges, right?
Well, if
Do you remember?
You broke up. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, if you remember, you were talking about the Alabama federal judge.
Oh, yeah.
And rights and privileges.
Now, I believe he's a federal judge from Alabama, was in Atlanta at the Ritz-Carlton. 911 got a call from his wife. He was beating her up. He went to jail that night, slap on the wrist. He's out and he's back on the bench. Now, this guy has lifetime tenure. Why does he continue to keep his job? If Joe Blow on the street did the same thing, he'd be in prison. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
But this judge, he's still sitting on the bench and he's still doing, life as usual. Why do they get that privilege? And why do they get to stay, even some of the politicians? It's a lifetime position. Why?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that happens is that it's not necessarily a privilege. It is criminals covering each other's own butts. There isn't a judge out there that'll rule against him because he's a judge, just like them. And if they can rule against him, other judges can rule against them. We don't want to open that particular Pandora's box. If judges start holding other judges accountable, they're going to be held accountable themselves, and they don't want that. They don't want the spotlight. It's money all the way, and I mean, they got a really good system going there where they're making big bucks for every child they throw into the child welfare system. For every person they put in jail, they get kickbacks.
Yeah.
So they don't want to upset that apple cart. That's their bread and butter. Well, I should say that's their next week's Rolls Royce or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they say one of the biggest criminal acts in the United States has been privatizing prisons, because part of their contract has been, we'll make private prisons for you as long as you keep them filled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And now, if I may hear you, were the difference between rights and privileges.
Uh-huh.
Rights cannot be taken away. Rights cannot be negated. Privileges are giving someone the right to do something that would otherwise be illegal. So the only thing of privileges is what Uncle Sam giveth, Uncle Sam can take away. Rights are not there. Rights are unalienable. They are ours, whether there's a government or not. They predate and supersede all governments. But people just can't seem to grasp that concept that they have that kind of power.
Yeah.
We have the power to charge.
Yeah, you're getting back into what you were saying before, and what what Troy and I were talking about. Was it earlier this week, or last week, whenever it was, talking about natural law.
Mm-hmm.
And what natural law just means is you have the right. Let's put it, you're born onto this earth, so who do you owe any money to from birth till death, other than whatever contracts or agreements you agree to get into?
Exactly.
Why are you being taxed?
Why should I have to pay to live on the planet I was born on?
Yep. Especially when you didn't create the planet.
And I got not a hell of a lot to say about how it's run either at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not paying anybody for the privilege to exist. I refuse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out of the game. I learned that a while back, and I mean, if you get down to the bottom line, what's the worst they can do? Yeah, they can kill me. Okay? That's the worst they can do. Well, I'm going to die anyway one of these days. I made that realization a long time ago. I'm not indestructible like I thought I was as a kid.
Yeah.
The aches and pains of growing older have proved that only too well. But I'm going to die someday. So maybe it's better I die early in defense of a good cause, of the right cause, people's rights, than to drag it out and live the rest of my life as a slave.
Speaking of which, before we get away from that particular subject, just what you just said, the one thing that I've made statements on before, not that it's really fallen on too many really receptive ears, is people don't understand, we as a people, we as a race of beings, we are the ones who put value into money. We're the ones who put value into things. And my personal feeling is, I don't think people understand that saying, oh, well, the cops are going to do this, and the militaries will do that, and the politicians will do that. And you think that they're really going to do something. There are quite a few that will, but there's still going to be quite a few that are going to say, I can't and I won't give up my income, my way of life, to do what I believe is right. And then there's still some people out there that still are just really focused on, they like the violence. They like to beat up on people. They like to shoot people. And, I would love to think that we as a human race are as a whole, but I see through my lifetime, there's a lot of people out there that are just, I won't lose what I've got, and I like shooting people. I like being, in short, violent. What are your comments on that? Either one of you, or both?
Well, I don't think it's that prevalent. I don't think most people think that way. I realize, especially now in America, in a Christian society, the ethic is thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not maim and destroy somewhere else. No, Attila, it's rape and pillage first, then burn. But I don't think the human beings think that way. That is a distinct psychopathic minority. I think the biggest problem that we have, like, I can only speak for America because I live here, but the biggest problem we have is fear.
Yeah.
Fear that these things will happen. And then they don't happen, but people are still afraid because that fear is nurtured over and over again. Government false flags, things that are designed to keep us agitated and uptight, and the news media can only print stuff that, well, good news doesn't sell newspapers. People thrive on adversity.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
trust me, I'm not saying that the majority of people are that way. I'm just saying there are enough people out there that, well, you know how the media and how people actually see things. One person out of 1,000 can do something wrong, and that one person tends to be the representative for the whole race.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's because that scandal or that thing that they've done advances somebody else's cause. Mass shootings in schools. And I say, and I'll say it right here and I'll say it again, Sandy hoax was a hoax.
I believe that too.
Those were crisis actors. You can go on the net and find the website for crisis actors that are put in that position because that advanced the agenda of gun control.
I think a lot of these recent mass shootings are hoaxes. There's that one up in, I think it was Santa Barbara or someplace like that. These people are sitting in the restaurant, and the guy's supposed to have come in and he's shooting. You see some people running, but then there's people that are supposed to be closer where he's at. This one girl sitting in the booth, twirling her hair around her fingers, and she's smiling and grinning. The guy sitting next to her is kind of like, well, maybe I should lean over, pretend like I'm ducking down. You could see it's just absolute bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, she's twirling her hair, smiling, slides down in the seat, kind of like, oh, maybe I should. The
Yeah.
guy sitting across the table from her he ducks down below the table, then comes up, looks again, and sits down. Everybody else is running for cover, and these 3 or 4 people sitting at his booth are going, oh, okay, it's happening.
Okay, here's another one for you. That deli shooting. Everybody's running and getting in between the shelves and everything else, but the girl who happens to make the 911 call and supposedly is doing CPR on a dead man. And she's sitting here out in the wide open between the cash register, and she's the only one that's not ducking for cover. She's getting her cell phone out and being the hero and calling 911. Now, there's later scenes where you see the cops have the tape up around the store and everything else. What do you see inside the store? Boxes that say glass. How many do you order for, custom fit doors the same minute that the shooting happens?
Oh, gosh. I see that one.
And the video's on YouTube. You can't make this shit up. It's on YouTube. There's video of it. It's not like word of mouth.
Yep. And of course, then there's the other side of it, where in a similar thing I read about, a guy comes in and pulls out a gun and takes one shot, and about half of the customers stand up, pull out their concealed carry weapons, and blow the mother away. So I hear about that on the news, about that, because that doesn't further their agenda. And a friend of mine just walked in and made another relevant in regards to that, which is the mental health issue. Most of these people, every one of those mass shooters that they use as poster boys was either just on or just came off of some psychotropic drug.
Yeah. And they're always a genius.
Oh yeah.
And they want to label.
Yeah, they want to label them. You know, they're insane. Well, okay. Now that 1 or 2 or 6 mass shooters compared to, for instance, the NRA statistics that there are 84 million registered responsible gun owners in this country. Now, if 6 out of 84 million go off the deep end and they were on bad drugs because of it, what does that tell you about the government, their tactics, you know? I mean, we can talk about false flags till we're blue in the face. It goes back to things like the Lusitania, the Gulf of Tonkin, Pearl Harbor, the Bay of Pigs, Oklahoma City, 9/11, Sandy Hook, the theater shoot in Colorado. Those were all staged events, just like the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
Every one of those that you could see around the crowd, all these agents from Blackwater, and they were all carrying exactly identical backpacks to the one they showed that was carrying the pressure cooker that exploded, that these 2 boys were supposed to have set off. And in the picture they show, there's not a burn mark anywhere on that backpack. There is no way that could have happened. Just like finding a pristine passport hitting the ground out of the 9/11 building fiasco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and when that happened, me and my kids were watching, watched the buildings come down, and we're like, damn, that looks like when they purposely implode a building to take it down for demo.
Yep.
And they found the car in the airports just a couple hours after everything happened. And I told my kids, I said, it's awful funny that they found the car with all this stuff and the Quran and all these paperwork and everything else in just a couple hours after all this shit happening. Wasn't that awful strange when you got thousands of cars sitting in this parking lot?
Yeah, and look at how well they did finding bin Laden.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
I want to ask a question here because I haven't heard anybody else say this besides myself, but I remember I was at work when 9/11 came up, or September 11th, as some people prefer to call it. September 11th, I was at work, and we were just sitting down, getting our computers up, and somebody says, the Twin Towers had just been hit. And I'm going, yeah, that's not a joke. No, it's for real. Say, hey, everybody, there's nothing but a great big call center. The whole floor, everybody's on their computer. Let's see it live on CNN. And they spoke about the bomb that had happened over at the Pentagon. And the first report, that very first day, they said on national TV, and you can't find it nowadays, they said that a truck blew up on the side of the Pentagon.
I never heard that one.
The next day, it was a plane.
It was a missile. Plain, pure and simple. There's no
Well,
way.
of course, you look at that hole, there's no way an airplane went through that hole.
Thank you.
And why is it the most secure building in the United States? There's only one freaking camera working that day, and it's just a couple of seconds here and there. Bullshit.
Yep.
And that plane went down. The passengers took over and crashed that plane. I saw pictures of the wreckage right after it happened. There was no wreckage.
Yeah.
There was no. It was just a big hole in the ground with a bunch of metal strewn around, but there was nowhere near a jet airliner.
Mm-mm.
Blasted around that hole.
Not like any other plane crash that you see. There sure wasn't.
And I watched a video from BBC talking about Building 7 come down, like, was it an hour before it happened?
Yeah, that's been on the internet a lot.
And this group, Architects for Truth, they came out, they've said so many times in so many ways, there's no way that could happen. There's no way. It just, nature, physics not work that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, we all know, but they want us to believe. You see, the big problem they're having right now is that we have one advantage that hasn't happened before in history. We have an information flood. We have the internet. We have this. I've told people on repeated occasions, this is the biggest battleground of the revolution, and the revolution's happening right now. It is a revolution of consciousness. People are waking up to all of the bullshit that's been perpetrated on them for, well, in America for 238 years. But now we have a way to find out and information faster than they can squash it. And they can't cover all of their bases. They have to pay attention to details because Americans are paying attention to details. And I saw a Gallup poll yesterday that said only 23% of Americans feel that the government is taking us in the right direction. What does that tell you about we the sheeple?
Yeah.
I think we're waking up.
Yeah, 9/11 was a wake-up call for a lot of people, and then when they started really investigating and thinking for themselves instead of what the government says happened, they started to see there's a lot going on that we're being lied about.
Well, here's one, for instance. This that Malaysian flight that was lost and nobody's still found. Here's a nice little poster that I love, and I don't remember this guy's name, but he's been in a lot of TV series. He's been in movies. He's the Marine drill sergeant. He even talks like that sometimes in some of the movies he's in. And here's the poster that says, "We have submarines that can find a barnacle on a turtle's ass. Aircraft that can hunt down a submarine, and indestructible black box links to satellites. Wake up, nuts. You're being distracted. Jetliners just don't effing disappear in 2014.
Nope.
Wasn't there supposed to be a bunch of scientists on that airplane?
No, there were patent holders for a major discovery. And now that they're dead, the rights to the patent go to one remaining person that didn't die. So...
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, so, there's madness to their method. I mean, this is a tactic they've used for a century, at least, And they've gotten to the point where they don't even try and hide it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're so complacent and they're so assured that we won't do anything. Well,
Well, it doesn't help that there's so many people out there with their quote conspiracy theories. So it's like you could throw it out there and people will say another conspiracy theory.
Yeah, there's this conspiracy reality.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is I've had several people accuse me of wearing a tinfoil. Well, you know what? I turn around and I tell them, excuse me, no, I took off a tinfoil hat and let reality in. Why don't you try it? Get out from under your tinfoil hat and see what the hell is really going on. Come on, wake up. Hello?
Yeah.
Is there anybody in there?
If you've got an interest in it, you can answer. That's not an issue there. The problem is what do you really, are you looking for truth? Are you looking for something that substantiates your particular? And that's the one fault I can find with the internet, because you can find something that's going to actually support your particular belief.
Well, hell, dude, that's the Bible.
I'll drink to that. Drink to that. Amen.
That's true, too.
That's the whole thing. There are two things throughout history that have been used to control people. One is religion, the other is politics.
Mm-hmm.
Make it three, money.
Both are about controlling people. That's all there is to it. Religion is not a way to find God. Religion is a way to be controlled. And for someone else to dictate how you're going to live. Well, excuse me, that's my business. That's not yours. Which door did you come in? Can I help you out?
Well, it's like they say, there's two things you don't discuss, politics and religion. And I always thought that was the stupidest damn thing, because those are the two things that control most things. So how are you going to figure out somebody else believes or get this political office or, change things? You're not even supposed to talk about it. That's stupid.
Well, something here, and I'm going to let you stash if you want to continue with this thought, by all means, Tim, whichever one. The one thing that I really dislike is just about any religion that proselytizes. And one such person was trying to do this not too awfully long ago. And it was just supposed to be a conversation. At least that was what I thought it was. It's just conversation. Sure, I'll have a conversation about almost anything that I know something about. Next thing I know is, here, read this text, read that text. And for 20 minutes, I sat there in silence listening. And what I ended up doing was, after 20 minutes, I said, listen, I sat here for 20 minutes, didn't even go, excuse me, or anything. I just listened. I said, this is the thing that I dislike about proselytizers. You never asked me where I am spiritually. What do I need to be answered? Do I have any questions that maybe you can answer for me? And then you started telling me this, and telling me it's true. Well, guess what? Every religion and every denomination within that religion is saying, I have the truth. And you're telling me that it's going to stand on its own. Well, name a religion, they will all tell you, we have the truth. Every last one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry, but my karma just ran over your dogma.
You got peanut butter in my chocolate.
That's it. Hey, I got this right between the nose from, the time I was a kid, because my grandfather was a hardcore Southern Baptist preacher. And my grandmother was the militant evangelist from hell. As a matter of fact, that's why I was disowned when I was 15, because I told her I didn't believe the same thing she did. And boy, that ended family relations right there. Not only between me and them, but between my parents and them. My parents finally got pissed off at them sending me home after every visit, preaching hellfire and damnation and trying to save my parents, when they didn't think they needed saving.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Josh wants to say something here. He's sitting listening in.
Hi, y'all.
Hi.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, Josh.
When it comes to religion, and especially with things like Christianity, I am a Christian, Judeo-Christian in fact. Jesus said to be the fisher of men, and what people don't seem to get anymore is you catch some get away, and you still need to have that patience. Even Christ said this, that you just, it's up to you. We have the personal decision to make these decisions in our life for positive things or negative things, and people take religion to horrible places. And just look back through history. There is not one time in history where it wasn't written by the victor. And who are the victors? The dominant ones. You get enough people to believe anything, then things are going to happen. Thank you.
Yeah. What he said. History is always written by the winners.
Oh, yeah. Always is. Yeah.
And back to something you were saying earlier, the only real way to overcome all of this, the two hardest things to overcome are inertia, because this society's been set on a path, and we've been taught and propagandized that it needs to be this way. And the other one is cognitive dissonance. People, you threaten their reality, and their first and usually most prevalent response is, oh, no. Can't be, can't happen, they can't do that here, that'll never happen in America. No, don't believe it. Ain't going to believe it, you can't convince me. Well, okay, I'll talk to somebody else then. Bye.
Yeah.
There has to be a societal decision as a whole to make the changes to get everybody to believe the same thing and to do what's right. You can't just force people to believe what you believe, but there's always ways of convincing. But until everybody as a society understands the human condition itself, which controls everybody, especially in large groups, nothing's really going to change.
But why do we have to believe the same thing? Why can't I believe what I want to believe? You believe what you want to believe. The people down the street believe what they want to believe.
And
As long
therein,
as we don't interfere with everybody else's beliefs and leave them the hell alone.
and therein is the basis of natural law.
Exactly.
There you go. You just said it in a nutshell. Live your own life the way you choose to live it. Just don't hurt anybody else in the process.
Yeah, but people don't leave it at that.
Yeah, well, some
That's
people
all.
don't.
That's because religion and politics don't allow people to do that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
coming up and saying that we all need to believe the same thing, that's the same thing that these radical Muslims are saying. Until the whole world is Islamic, we're going to wage jihad against them. And
Kill them all. Let God sort them out.
Well,
Yeah.
everybody have their own religious beliefs and what have you. I'm talking about a basic belief as a whole in a society of, yeah, let's look at something basic. Gene Roddenberryism, Star Trek. There was a great palette for a peaceful society, and but that society came to grips as a whole with, we need to overcome our human condition to do this. But it was still the same simple fact that there had to be one common goal, one common belief. Yeah, you can have your religious beliefs and believe whatever you want, but until there's one common goal, nobody's going to get together.
One common goal, happiness.
or just unconditional love, which just means I can love anybody, I just don't have to love your actions. Which means, hey, I don't have to go hating you because I hate your actions.
Well, the biggest problem I've seen so far, and it goes back to religion too. Look at the biggest, most powerful, most wealthy corporation in the world. Can you tell me which one it is?
That happens to be
Catholic Church of Vatican.
Hmm?
And those people, what has driven them all through their existence? Greed.
Oh, yeah.
That's what drives most people to do action. I want something you have, and I can't go get my own. I want yours. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is negotiable until I take it from you.
Mm.
There are some things, aggression, greed. These things have to be bred out of the human paradigm. We have to just all come to the common agreement that these things are not allowed.
Yep.
You are not allowed to take somebody else's shit. You're not allowed to hurt somebody else or kill them. You're not allowed to make a deal and defraud them. You are accountable for your action. This is a big missing piece in this world right now, and especially in America. Personal responsibility. You are responsible for your actions, whether you're, a homeless person out on the street, a city councilman, a judge on the Supreme Court, or the public fool number one up there in the White House. He is accountable, and he has to be held accountable by the rest of human beings. That's all there is to you. You have to be able to be held accountable, and you have to have the guts to hold other people accountable. And it takes guts to stand up to somebody and say, "You did wrong, and I'm going to prove it."
Yep. Let me make one final little thing here before we have to end here fairly soon. There's a nice poster that's going around. I finally actually saved the little sucker. This is from the woman who played, I think it was the head marm or something like that in the Harry Potter movies. Stately British woman, and she's taking this pose like in Victorian clothes, and she has that look on her face, typical British kind of thing of, you said what kind of thing. She goes, "My dear, religion is like a penis. It's perfectly fine for one to have and to take pride in. But when one takes it out and waves it in my face, we have a problem."
Indeed. Bravo. Keep it to yourself, fool.
Yeah.
It's never fun to have those waved in your
I can't
face.
I got to get that image out of my head. Gee.
I'll send it to you later. Anyway, before we do have to end here. So, is there any final comments from either one of you, or both? Actually, both of you, please.
Wake up.
Well, there's
We all need to just love each other and get the hell over ourselves.
Yeah.
There you go. Kim?
Pay attention to what's going on in the world. Don't believe everything the media is trying to get you to believe.
Yeah, and I'll throw in one. Just use your brain for more, as my mother used to tell me when I was a kid. Use your brain for more than just a hat rack.
Yeah, use the right head.
I got one to throw in there. Let's all make the society where the government fears us, and not the other way around.
Well, that's what one of our founding fathers said. So, yeah, let's do it.
I know, right?
Yep. Get her done, as somebody says.
Indeed. Well, with that, let me see. Let's close out with my usual statements here. You can find all of our podcast here, iTunes, Stitcher, podcast.com, RSS feed, and on YouTube. All player and smartphone friendly, so you can listen to them on the go. And all of our podcasts are free. You can subscribe to each player once you found one that you like for automatic updates, since we do post on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can also follow our website and our blog straight from our blog, which is at www.kwave6radio.tk. And we also ask that you support our advertisers. We didn't hear many of them on this show today, but we do this, I do this at least, just on these personal broadcasts that I do with friends or either by myself. And you check with if you didn't hear, you want to know who our advertisers are, please go to our advertisers page on the website. If you do have suggestions and or comments for any future shows or even this show, please send them to info@kwave6radio.tk. That's info@kwave6radio.tk. We thank you, Kim and Stash, and aka Robert, and for your friend who has joined in on this. So we hope that you guys had a great time.
Thank you for inviting us again.
Oh, definitely.
Indeed. Always fun, my brother.
Yes, indeed. And we'll see everyone again next week. Take care and be well.
Thank you for being part of our audience. For more information about K-Wave 6 Radio and the services we offer, go to www.kwave6radio.tk. Have a wonderful day.